Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot with Penny Bradley. Today we have returning guest Arkheim Wood, and he's been doing some research into several topics, and we've had a person who used to be important in our community decide to give court testimony that seemingly other people think matters. So we're going to be talking about several topics today, and welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, you worked all day today. For guys that are just tuning in, this was pre-recorded, so it's not at 2 in the afternoon or whatever time you're seeing it. So yeah, we've had issues in the community for some time with this one individual, and there are several lawsuits going back and forth because he's trying to stay relevant after he got himself fired. And now he's in court telling people that all of his testimony was channeled, which of course the rationalists took that, ran with it, and said he's a liar, and we're all liars, and the whole community is lying, and we don't need to listen to them. Well, most of us never did listen to him in the first place. Actually, your thoughts?
Well, for me, I discovered Corey Good through David Wilcock, and this was long before I had completely waken up to being a super soldier or whatever you want to call it. And I found Corey through David, and I found his testimony to be kind of fascinating. And I will admit that it struck some chords with me, but I could just sense that there was something off about it, and because he kind of mixed his real testimony with his bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where
way of putting it.
Yeah, so because some of the stuff that he talked about was very familiar and eerie to hear him talk about. Other things, like for instance, for me, I kind of have this inside knowledge, especially when I first woke up, started actually paying attention to what we call this community. When I woke up, I did get memories. Eventually, it didn't happen right away, but I have memories of my star family, and they are avians. And you and I have had private conversations about this before. We, from what I recall, we worked with the Draco, and we had human beings as slaves, and we made them worship us, and we were just like anybody else out there that was using humans as basically their personal playthings. We weren't good. And eventually we did realize that, from what I recall. I'm still trying to figure out that's, how accurate that is. Just because I realized something, or maybe a group of us realized something, didn't mean that the whole species realized it. It's a complicated thing. But suffice to say that the whole talk of the blue avians thing, that's where I drew the line, especially because you could just tell that he's full of crap. And this is what I really want people to understand about this whole Corey Good thing. And there's just this whole push in the community of people being like, none of this is real, and they're trying to figure out all these explanations, and MK Ultra is making us think that this is real because they want us to think it's real because we're actually are espionage agents and all stuff. It's like, even the explanations that they're giving us, like they're just as complicated as what we're saying. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. What I'm trying to say is the truth is out there. The truth is the truth. The truth isn't interchangeable. Reality is reality. And the reality is that this is happening. And if you're watching these videos, more than likely, sometimes it's just people who are interested and maybe haven't had experiences, but more than likely you've had experiences. And that's what this is really about. This is about reaching those people. And what I have to say is, your memories matter.
It's about reaching the people who've had the experiences, because nobody else believes this anyway.
Yeah, and this whole idea, like, oh, they're all saying they're space superheroes and the story is so sexy. It's like, okay, obviously you're not listening to us if that's what you think. You're not listening to us at all. And it's not something that I find sexy. It's not something that I find endearing. It's something that scares the fuck out of me. The reason why it took me so long to wake up to it is because of the fact that it makes me uncomfortable to think about it. It makes your skin crawl to think that you can get taken at night and have a whole life stolen from you. And it's the situation. It's to the point where I'll wake up and I'll have those thoughts and know something happened to me, and I'll just push it aside and say that's a dream because I gotta go to work or do whatever it is that day, and that's kind of the way they want it. And I'm starting to realize more and more that this is reality. And for the people that want to say that it's all programmed and it's all just some sort of fantasy that we came up with, like, I have things that happen to me where that version of me that's over there tries to give this version of me over here clues. Like, and the most recent thing, I don't know if I talked about this publicly yet or not, but this necklace is on a different new chain because essentially I'm going to try to sum up the story quickly here, but I I woke up with a memory of like ripping off my necklace, and I saw it was still on my neck, and I was tired still, so I just went back to bed because I usually just sleep with it on. You think I'd take it off; it's kind of clunky, but I don't. And I didn't think anything of it because I saw it was still on my neck. But then the next day, I took a shower, I did take it off, and I realized that I had it on a keychain because it was already like it was already I fixed it and I put it on a keychain, and what it was like the keychain was totally bent, and you could tell I had ripped it apart, and you could tell I did rip it off my neck. And the memory in the dream was that I was like, which wasn't a dream now I realized, was that I was on a craft, and I was all what felt like in a daze, drugged up, and I realized like, oh, I'm awake, like I have to do something to like make myself remember this is real. So I just ripped my necklace off. That was the first thing I could think of, is I just pulled it as hard as I could. And I remember that the chain fell on the floor. And I think that's what got me, is because I was like going out of it, and I don't think if I was able to get the chain. And then that opens up this whole can of worms about where that memory came from. Because in this memory that I had that came back to me, I don't know how to explain it other than like it's related to these other memories, and I could tell they're the same thing and from the same place. And essentially what I was doing is I went back in time with a group of scientists, a group of people, to establish a colony. We started with a small encampment, and we worked our way up until it was a full-fledged civilization with cities and arts and culture. They had stop signs, just like we have on Earth. Everything was so similar. It was eerie. It was totally scary. I remember telling guys on that planet that Earth existed and what it was like and how similar it was, and it was like the same reaction telling an average Earth civilian about this place. And for me, I kept on waking up and having these dreams, and I was just like, dude, they're just dreams. Because, like, even though I talk to you and this is real to me, nobody wants to accept this as real. Nobody wants to accept that paradigm shift. And that's what I think is really going on here. That's where I think this pushback is really coming from, is people do not want to accept the fact that this is happening. And that's where I was at. And it took me having physical evidence of my necklace being ripped off and realizing that the memory of it was in the same place as these other weird memories to see that, lo and behold, I just set up a colony somewhere in space with a group of people for the sole purpose of it being a military outpost, just so they have bodies. And that's, when you realize that kind of shit, like you wonder, like, okay, was that what Earth was? Like, how many planets are there where the Draco or whoever it was, because I can't recall what group I was working for, but they realized, oh, this would be a strategic location, and we could take this and we could make it what it, it's like taking an island in between, closer to an adversary or something like that, so you have a strategic advantage on them. It was that kind of thing, but in space. And it's like, just to see that they will literally go back in time and alter an entire planet's history and put humans on the planet, just shows you how massive this is and how intricate it is, and how, yeah, man, if you don't if you're not willing to, like, if you're still talking about going out in space and how the radiation will affect you, so none of this could be real. Okay, let's talk. How much gasoline does it take to fill the thing up to get to Mars then? If that's the way you're thinking, like, fucking seriously, like, how do they put enough gas on it? Like the rudimentary thinking, the small-minded thinking that's coming out of people in this community that I thought fucking were with the program and got what was going on is kind of blowing my mind. And it's like, and
Yeah,
it's like,
I get it, because those people contact me daily, and it's the one set wants to tell me that it could not possibly have happened the way I remember it, and the other set has all of these things that they want to toss in that are not 3D real. And at the same, I'm looking at it and going, at what point are these people going to realize that what we're experiencing is real and it's in 3D? And if we visit those places, we will find evidence that something was there.
yeah, I mean, it's like you can. I think that's one of the reasons why it might be, and I do not respect the guy at all. Don't get the wrong idea, but I think it might be one of the reasons that Elon Musk is pushing this whole go to Mars thing so hard, is because he does recognize that there's something going on there, and that's kind of what you're saying. Is like, if we literally went to these places, you would see it, and until that happens, we're not going to see it. But for me, I don't understand. It's just kind of getting hard for me to even comprehend what this other parallel narrative even is, because, like, these people will say that we've never been to space, but in the same sentence talk about how it was written in the Vedas that we went to space. I'm just really confused at what these people are trying to actually say. Like, I'm watching interviews. I'm open to the other end of the conversation, but it's just not making any sense to me. And I don't know. We could waste a lot of time talking about this, like, and I do say waste because I think that's what they want us to do, is waste our time talking about this instead of getting to the bottom line of what's actually happening. And I don't know, that's the thing, is like, as much as we want to say that we've gotten uh super far with that, we really haven't. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things we don't know. And I
Well, I
guess.
found going to conferences that most people consider it to be entertainment, that they're not listening to what we actually say, that they have this idea that we're giving them science fiction and that they're just eating it up because they think it's fun. But the minute that they realize that something's really happening, they get scared and run. Now, I had a young woman today, about your age, maybe a little younger, send me a friend request, and she thought it was going to be fun and games. Well, I have taken up, I give an initial warning before I accept someone's friend request. And it's basically a blurb about there are a percentage of people who are targeted because they're on my friends list, and 7 people have been killed, and I want you to know this before you step into it. So this is your chance to back out. You know? And she just freaked. People are, I can give you the Facebook profiles of 4 of the people that were murdered for knowing me.
No, you
And
did it before I went on your show.
yeah,
You
so
let me know
yeah,
what was going on.
I made sure I make sure people know what they're getting into. And, you know, I recently interviewed Tyler Koala, and he said it would be the last time I interviewed him because when I gave him that warning, he thought I was just doing drama. But he has found out since then that yes, he has been targeted and he doesn't want any more. So he and Journey to Truth are stepping back from the topic. So it's when people find out it's fucking real, it scares them. That's that's the biggest wall we've got, is they don't think it's real until it happens to them.
Yeah, it's definitely real. And for anybody that's experiencing it, it's not fun. And I have to live with it. And I don't know, ever since I came public, my life seems to have been falling apart. Uh, in some ways, not so much, but I'm doing okay. But I don't know. I can tell that they target me. I can tell that they're messing with my life in certain ways. They're programming certain narratives into my life. It's kind of like if you read um a book by Stewart Swerdlow about mind control, 13 Cubed. Some of them you kind of start to understand how your everyday life, you're like seeing mind control stuff play out. And that's been hard for me. That's been really hard.
That book was very enlightening for me because it put together pieces. I had seen the pieces but had not put them together. And I've recommended that book to a lot of people because it does put the pieces together.
I actually couldn't finish reading it. I read maybe 1/3 of the book, but I got enough of the picture from that to even be able to see some stuff in my life. And that there's just been weird coincidental situations, and they have been sending people into my life, I think. And I say I think because you never can be sure, but I had a situation happen to me recently where like I went to the bar and I was hanging out, and there's this lady there and she's drinking, and everybody's outside where you smoke cigarettes, and we're all talking, and this lady's being super nice to me, and she starts talking about how she has this room open at her house and how I could move in with her, and it's this historic home, and it all sounds really nice, and the rent would be really cheap, and she needs help doing land or yard work and stuff, which I would be fine with doing, and it all seemed really promising. And so I'm talking to this lady for a while, and then she starts talking about her husband, and it takes a while for it to click. but he's a child psychologist, okay, one, and he too works for the military.
Oh, goody.
And I was just like, oh, that's why this fucking lady wants me to move in with her. Sorry for swearing. I can't help it. But
yeah, well, people swear on my show. I swear on my show.
Yeah.
The topic itself keeps you so on edge that swearing is a natural release.
I think it is, yeah. But I just thought it was really interesting, and then the whole situation was wild because I was sitting there with these two other guys who they knew me, but I couldn't remember them very well. And I was talking to somebody else in the community. Is like, dude, those guys are also assets, and that moment was a thing. Like they were either passively or non-passively like activated, or like. But basically, it was a weird situation because I was with these guys, and she was talking about her husband, and when I said, look, I don't want to move in with you anymore. I don't want to talk about your military husband that's a child psychologist that works for the military. I actually think it's really weird that your husband is a child psychologist that works for the military. Like, that's a really weird job title, and it actually makes me uncomfortable. I just straight up told her that. And she started asking me questions like, why? do you know him? I'm like, I don't know if I know him. That's what's freaky about it. His name sounds familiar. Like I don't want to talk about it, but like I don't want to move in with you anymore, and you're making me real. And it got to the point where the other people were like, dude, lady, just stop talking about your husband, man. Just stop asking him about like why he doesn't want to move in with you, and stop talking. Like, just drop it. like
Yeah.
it was fucking weird, and I don't know if that's just like a coincidence, and that's the thing is like I always just want to write things off as coincidences, and that's what people don't understand. All these people that are trying to say, it's bullshit, and we're like telling stories and making it up. It's like, dude, the last thing I wanted to do was enter a community of people from what I've perceived until I entered it to be a bunch of right-wing fucking Trump worshiping wingnuts. Like that's not what I ever
Some of them are.
That's not where I ever saw my life going. And there's plenty of people whose disrespect I've lost because of where I'm at and who I'm talking to. And I'm getting treated in like my life as a musician different, and getting messages about how I'm problematic and how like I'm not allowed to play in certain areas anymore. And when I ask for an explanation, they won't give me one. Like, and I don't know if it has to do with this or not, but it sure as hell seems like it, especially when I was all the way in Portland, Oregon, and nobody knows me there, and I had a similar situation play out. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, and you could be saying, well, it's because you're fucked up and you're bothering people, but that's not what's happening, dude. Like, I'm the one experiencing it, and I know, like, it's to the point where it's weird. Yes, everybody bothers people and rubs shoulders the wrong way and stuff like that sometimes, but what I've been experiencing in my life for the past, since I've been public, has been nothing less than weird. Nothing less than.
Oh, yeah. I've been public for 6 years now, and it has gone from weird to weirder, and I'm finally getting to where my doctors are following my show.
What I found most
Yeah,
interesting is I posted.
I'm sitting back and going, okay, my medical doctor who knows all of my shit has seen all of my medical files and knows that I'm not lying about any of it. If anything, I'm withholding over half of it. And she's watching my show where I interview other people from the same community, and we mutually discuss the bullshit. And I'll come in for a exam, and she'll say, "Oh, I really liked your show with so and so."
That's
You know,
interesting.
it's like, okay, I'm finally being accepted that I'm doing this show. Now, the next question is, when is she going to make the connection that most of what's wrong with me is related to what I talk about on the show? So,
Yeah, I've been thinking about how it would be good for me to get diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder and all those things and just face it, because I think that medicine has come a long way, and it would be nice to get some clinical help for that. And you're kind of talking earlier about how I've been investigating dissociative identity disorder, and I guess that would be a good message to send to people in this interview, is that it's a real mental illness that exists in the uh, professional psychological community. It's
mhm,
not just in our community. The term
no,
alters wasn't invented by our community. It's something that we
no,
picked up from them, and it's just further proof that, I mean, it just blew my mind. Like when I found out that that's like a real thing, and this hasn't even been accepted until recently either. And it just shows you how far behind we are on all that stuff, like, and how
well,
little we understand.
now when I did my research, I was doing it 7, 8 years ago before I was public. So at that point, The earliest I could find where it had been mentioned to the public was a movie, The Three Faces of Eve. And that was in the 1950s, 60s, that region. So we had people who shifted altars before then, but it was considered to be something you didn't talk about. Those were just crazy people. They were put in the middle of
I would say it's still something you don't talk about. I would say not much has changed. Just because there's clinical definitions for it doesn't mean that the average Joe understands it. Most people are totally far removed from it. And I think that the idea of alters and the fact that this is real, it's just proof that the procedures that we went through are real to me. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if people are making this up, like, wow, like, kudos, like, I mean, as far as it's just for me, like, I get it. I get how if you don't have personal experiences, you're not getting memories back. You're not having to go into the restroom to fucking cry. You're during a normal outing because you're getting memories and stuff. That it's really easy for you to be like, oh, these people are just telling stories. But like, I've done enough research. I've seen it in my life. Like there's so much weird stuff. Like it all adds up to, dude, military used me as a weapon. We are in space, and they're lying to us about it. And that wasn't an easy conclusion for me to reach, and it happened to me, and it's still happening to me. So I don't know what I can say other than we just have to be here for each other, and that's what this is about. It's supposed to be a community. For me, if people aren't on board with what we're saying, I guess I'm going to pay attention to them. But then at the same time, like bon voyage, like I can't pay attention to everybody, and if your information isn't going to be relevant to me, but I think it'll be interesting to. I feel like I'm the only person who's like out of all the people that I'm seeing out there, like, and I guess this is a good time to announce it. Should probably be out by the time this comes out. That I'm doing an interview with Shane Bales, the Runer, right?
Mm-hmm.
No idea that's going to go. It might go great, it might go terrible, it might be in between. I have no idea. All I know is we talked on the phone.
I was an absolute nervous wreck. Every time I had to talk to him, I would have diarrhea for days ahead of time because I
Whatever.
had no idea how it was going to turn out.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit I'm a bit nervous about it, but when I talked to him on the phone, I mean, I was surprised by a lot of the things that he said. So we had a private conversation. We talked for over 2 hours. Not much longer. It was like 2 hours and 7 minutes or something like that.
He can be very calm and reassuring and rational, and he can also knife you very quickly.
Well, all I'm gonna say is like, I'm not going on doing this interview to just like be like, I was in space and you're full of shit, like, because he's saying that we were programmed to think we were and all this stuff, and more or less, I think I want to start with the fact that we have some common ground where we admit that there's programming, and I'd like to hear his understanding of it and give mine, and kind of go back and forth on some of the things we agree on until we get to the point where we disagree, and have him just really explain it and lay it out, and I'll be able to tell him where I see holes in it, because I just think that somebody has to do that. I think that somebody has to step forward and talk to one of these people head on, and I think it will be good. And it doesn't have to be a thing where it's like a debate where one person comes out a winner. It's more of like we can both present our information to people and the way we see things from our side, and what we've experienced, right? And they'll be able to come to their own conclusions. And also, when I hear his side and he hears mine, we're both going to be able to come to our own conclusions about what each other have to say. And I just think it's one of those conversations that definitely needs to be recorded and put on the internet. Because
when I last discussed with him, I was willing to go as far as what he remembers experiencing was real and happened for some people, but not all of us. And that was when he got upset, was because he's convinced it happened to all of us. And he has no room in his worldview for our experience. And that's why I cut it off, and that's why I won't interview him again. I won't appear with him again. Now, one of the things that I wanted to get back to was your research about dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
In my research, I found that 90% of the cases were related to sexual abuse of small children. And when I talk to these people that come to me for help, every one of them has this in our past. Now, I've not been stressing it on the shows because my former producer would sit back and talk crudely about the victims that were talking and say that he actually told me off air that women who talk about being raped want to get raped again. And I did not want that atmosphere on my show. And so that's why I'm telling women, don't talk about that part if you can help it, because that's what your audience is thinking. And I've tried to make it safer for us, but at the
I don't
same
think
time,
that that's what the audience is thinking. I think that that's what people that are fucked up. For lack of a better term, that's not what the average person is gonna think.
okay, but that was what has been in the back of my mind for the last 2 years as I interviewed people was, yes, we've all been through it. This is how alters are created, is through trauma so bad that the child who experiences it thinks that they have to choose between hiding that memory from themselves or actually dying. And for most of us, sexual trauma is what it was. And what came in when that stopped working were also ran the other 10% of how they do it. And those things are horrific. I remember being drowned. I remember being nailed inside a wall, left to suffocate. I remember being shot. The program I was in had a regen tank so they could bring us back from the dead. So they didn't care if they killed us or not. Now, people who are out, I call it in the wild, they were not part of these programs, but other people who have dissociative identity disorder, it's because their family members raped them, or because, they were abducted by a stranger, which is very rare. Most of the time it's a family member. And this, people are telling me, well, there's no evidence that having sex with a child damages them. Yes, there is. Dissociative identity disorder is caused by having sex with children. Period. If a child is under the age of consent, it's rape by definition. What's wrong with us was caused by us being raped as children. And the public needs to understand this is what the fuck pedophiles are doing to people. The people running these programs are pedophiles. And this shit has to stop. That's the underlying truth that I keep trying to push, and people are just not getting it. They think it's sexy. What part of being raped by an adult as a child is sexy?
Yeah, I still don't understand that, and um I look forward to asking Shane that. I already did ask him that, but I'm going to ask him it on the air, really, because it's true. Um, he explained it as like, look, the core good blue avian shit. That's what he's talking about. But it's like
He
it's a
applied
cop.
it to me.
Yeah, it's a cop out of an explanation, in my opinion. Um, and I'm gonna do my thing with them. I'm gonna interview him, and that's the end of it. I don't think that we should deal with all these people who are saying that we're not telling the truth. We really okay. Have a nice day. Like that's where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
the hell. Like what else are we supposed to do? There's people that think that there's like a Jesus died on the cross for them, and Sky Daddy is gonna come back and save everyone. Am I supposed to persuade these people too? Like I can't win everybody. Like so
Exactly.
whatever.
That's the approach I've been taking, is that I'm reaching out to the people who have these memories, that are sitting there thinking that they're all by themselves. You're not.
And that's
Now,
what you did for me.
and at the same time, I'm saying you don't need to go public unless you have a fire in your belly that you can't shut up. Because, like you said, your music business has been affected by being public.
Yeah. And which for me I don't understand because before I was very distracted by that and it focused much less on this. And now it's like, well, I might as well just make this what I focus on now, sort of, in a way, because I don't know, I kind of just sort of given up on music, to be honest with you. Like I played five shows this year, four at the beginning of the year and one recently. And I've only been playing shows that I get asked to play. Before it was literally like paying my bills and stuff. So that's a huge change from before COVID to now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just it's I can't say that it's whether it's related to SSP or not. We live in a weird time where just like you say and do certain things, people try to cancel you. My whole thing is that the people aren't willing to say why, and something tells me that that's because it has to do with this. And I don't know. It's just like I went on. There's people out there. Music is very. I don't want to get off topic here, but it's definitely affected my life. There's definitely people who think that I'm crazy. I've basically gone to the point now where I'll post about it on my main profile, which I did your interviews. It took interviews with you, and it took me months after that before I started posting it on my main profile. But in doing that, there's been people that I was being MK Ultra programmed with that went to the same elementary school as me that I remember being there with me that are getting memories back and they remember. Is it a good thing? I don't know. They ended up in the mental institution. Very sexy to find out that my friend is in the mental institution because they watched my videos. I really fucking love this shit, guys. It's so fun.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. This, yeah. When I was permabanned in 2019, people who I had gone to high school with, that I had remained friends with for 50 years, all decided that I was dangerous to know, and they've all dropped me. People that I have been in their homes over this whole time period, I'm not allowed to see them anymore because now I'm dangerous.
I mean, and to be fair, some of it, like I said, I'm talking about it being MK Ultra programming. Some of it, the stuff that I've experienced, it definitely has to do with that. Some of it is also just people being genuinely just freaked out by me. Like I was in a band doesn't matter who they are and stuff, but basically when I figured out my name, right, Arkheim Ra, which means Ark home Ra, which my people were the Ra. I was from the Council of Ra. Whatever. It's a long story. When I figured that out, the people that I were living with were genuinely fucking freaked out by it. You could tell. Like, and especially looking back, I could tell at the time, but looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I really freaked them out. Like, and now I go by that as my name. So I wonder if they think.
When I figured out mine, I kept it very private. I shared it with Lou. That's it. Nobody else knows what my soul name is. No. The man who's been tutoring me for over a decade, I haven't even told him.
Yeah, well, I think he told me, and it's a lot to take in. So, you don't want to freak people out. People actually might know your name when they hear it. My name is not around because I was wiped out of history. That's part of where my story, my fractal weapon story, is like the first person to screw me over like this and do all this stuff to me was Marduk, not the CIA. The first person to take my soul and start throwing it into other bodies and making me do stuff was Marduk.
Thoth was who did me.
Yeah, so
yeah, same group of folks.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's something that I wanted to say on the same vein of thought here. Yeah, no, it's just interesting to see this weird split in the community happening. I'm very new to this. Apparently, it's not new. Apparently, this has happened before. And all I can say
about every 4 to 5 years, we will have someone who comes to the top and then goes completely batshit, and everybody decides whether they're going to stay true to their memories or not. And actually, the last couple of years, people have been so stressed out that it's happened a couple of times. But before I was part of this community, okay, this is one thing. Ileana, the Star Traveler, me, the man who is Herr Mayor, Tony Rodriguez was part of this group. We made a difference because we started the counseling of each other. We started being there for each other. Before that, super soldiers would get to a certain point and they would go insane and kill themselves and usually their family. We have stopped that.
That's good news, right? That's good news for everyone.
Yeah, we have stopped the people killing themselves and their families. So we have managed to make that much progress. And that was a really big deal when we pulled it off. We feminized the community enough that it was okay to get counseling instead of kill each other.
Yeah, and you've got people like, brain fart moment. She does such great work. You're good friends with her. They weren't butterflies. God, I can remember everything about her but her name.
Miesha.
Yeah, Miesha. Yeah. She's
Miesha
been doing great work.
Yeah.
Great work with her groups and stuff, which I've never been a part of. I should. But I know that she's been doing that for quite some time, and she's a woman, so it's good to have. I think it's great that we have feminine voices in this community, because otherwise it probably would just be a lot of chest thumping and
That's
I
what
don't
it
know.
was before. Chest thumping, testosterone fights.
Yeah, and
I'm better than
I don't
you.
know. I'm definitely not one of the people out there that is less likely to listen to what a woman has to say or whatever. I think that's unfortunate. You've talked about that quite a few times. Some of the people that I respect the most in this community, you're one of them, and I would say that um, Miesha is also one of them. I've never actually talked to Miesha, but I pay attention to what she does, and she does great work. And
Yeah,
her
she does.
story is, it's like the real deal, like us. She's not. She talks about how some of them are benevolent, some of them are not benevolent.
Hmm.
It's not black and white. Some of them are in between. Just and so how bad some of it is, and just the MK Ultra part of it. I mean,
How
the
hard her
reality of
life was whenever that her alter took over and married somebody and moved away, and her family didn't even know where she was.
yeah, and I just don't understand how. I don't know, man. I've never had any of these insane escapades like this, but I know people in the community. There's people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis that are close to that do have shit like that happen to them. And that's why we get so mad, man, when people are like, "You guys are full of crap and none of it's real." It's like, dude, all right. Like some of these people are like, "All right, man, that's why I blacked out for a week and a half, and this happened, and there's a spaceship outside my house." Like, like I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just like you can tell you're in this, man. And I'll admit, like they really, I pay attention and I do see weird stuff, but they're pretty good at hiding themselves from me. And I kind of understand too that if I were to pay attention, I go schizophrenic, like I just go crazy. But yeah, they follow me too. But dude, I've had some weird stuff happen to me. Like the time travel aspect of who I am gets brought up in my life a lot. And some of these people have to have access to time travel technology because it's too weird. Here's an example, and maybe, maybe this I'm just seeing the same face, but I really don't think that was what happened here. Is like I had something happen where I was at a gas station, and it's gonna seem like it doesn't matter until I say the second part. So at a gas station in Nashville, Tennessee, and I go to the counter, and the woman seems very familiar to me, and it's really weird. And she looks at my necklace, and she gives it a good gander, and it's an Indian woman. And I'm just like, man, where do I know this woman from? And I'm walking out the door, and my thought is, well, I probably know her from space. I don't remember where, but that's probably where I know her from, because I know that woman. And so anyway, fast forward, I'm in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska or something, or North Dakota or something. I can't remember. One of the states in the middle of the country. And I go to a gas
Flyover
station.
states.
Yeah, and I'm in a gas station, and this lady, and she seems really familiar. And there's this little boy, and they're all Indian people, like from India, not
Indeed.
Native American. And there's a little boy, and he goes, "Hello," and I go, "Hi," and I'm just kind of like look at my stuff, and he comes up to me again. He's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Hey, hey, buddy," and I like pick up my drink and stuff, and on the way out the door, I think he doesn't even say goodbye. He says like hi again, and it is actually by the gas pump. They were leaving too, and it was like the weirdest thing. It was almost like that little boy, and it was because he was with his grandma, and then you could tell the lady that was doing serving at the register was the mom. You could tell they were related, and it was almost like the little boy and the lady were there just to see me show up, be there when it happened. And what I real and I saw that lady, and I had the same thought as in Nashville. I was like, man, that lady's familiar. Where do I know her from? And I'm thinking about it, and then it hits me like 45 minutes away. I'm like, that's the same lady, the same exact lady as in Nashville. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense remotely at all. Like, how? Like, and I don't know how to tell you, but like, I know it was the same the same lady. And it's just like, why? I got all these questions, and then it hit me that like the little boy seemed like he knew me, and that's why he was saying hi over and over again. And like it was just weird. And um I, coincidence? I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what that situation is. But like, yeah, it's like some people talk about like black helicopters and all these wild
I
things that are
get
super
those.
obvious.
I get
Whatever.
those 3 o'clock in the morning. Every morning they come across my apartment. If I'm
Ugh,
already in bed, they wake me up.
wow. Yeah, so I don't normally have stuff like that happen. I have noticed the military recruiter people were like following me. That was weird. And then I
Hmm.
heard someone talking about that in an interview. Like I can't remember. Like literally within the past 2 days, somebody was saying the same thing happened to them. Where like they weren't being followed by black vans, but they kept on seeing military recruiter people everywhere they went. That happens to me. But like I don't know, man. Like I tried to write it off as okay, I'm defective now because I have memories and they're not taking me anymore. Why would you take a piece of military equipment that's defective, right? That was one of the things
I
that I
thought they weren't taking me, and about a week and a half ago, I got picked up and sent to this planet where I was supposed to convince the local inhabitants to let planetary corporations have their planet. And I told planetary corporations to go fuck themselves that I wasn't going to do it. And I ended up back here. And a second night, a night or two later, they picked me up, took me again, and I again told them to go fuck themselves. And they haven't picked me up since that I have memory of. Now, that doesn't mean that I wasn't taken and that I didn't do it, but there's this planet out there that from a distance it looks like it's a snowball, but it's actually white phosphorus. And the species there has evolved to live on a white phosphorus ball. And so if their planet is used for fertilizer, like planetary corporations wants to do, then they're not going to have any place to live and they're going to die. And that's why I kept telling them, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to help you kill off an entire species. So,
yeah.
but I don't know why they picked me up for it. Like they thought that I could convince anybody of anything.
Like a used car salesman.
That's how it felt. Yes. I felt slimed to even be asked to do it. And I just basically said, no, I'm not going to do it. I am not going to help you destroy these people.
Yeah. I've had, the most recent thing was getting taken. And man, I want to go into details about that planet, um, but they're kind of fuzzy. But I was talking to somebody else in the community, and basically, I remember it being called Centurion 5, and there's another individual who's aware of a planet called Centurion, and it's in um, the Centauri region of space or whatever. But from what I remember, I can't remember if I was when I first got the memories back. I was like, man, we were good. We were trying to hide from the Draco. Like, it was like this awesome place of resistance. And now that I'm talking to other people, I'm starting to realize that it was maybe not that at all. And it was actually owned by either Nacht Waffen or the literal Nazis. I don't know though. My memories aren't clear enough of that planet, but I can tell you what I do remember. I remember that there was an alter of mine that was serving on a ship as a scientist, and well, my wife was more of the scientist. I had a wife, okay, and but we were set up with each other kind of the same way that May Her talks about how you're set up with somebody on Mars. It's kind of like, okay, you're gonna have children together now. You got good genes for each other. There you go, have a good life. That's kind of what it was like. We're scientists. And that's why the more memories I get back, the more it starts to seem like it's German. And that it is the same Centurion, this other individual. This was like, I can't remember being called Centurion 5. And he's like, they're not creative with the names. It could be true. Like, I'm pretty sure there's an Earth 2 and an Earth 3 out there. Like, you know what I mean?
They're not creative with the names, no. It wouldn't be Earth.
I'm still trying to figure that out. But what I can tell you is that they do set up whole entire planets through time travel just for military purposes, and that's crazy. That's absolutely.
I have been part of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I have too now, and now I know it. But I remember that I have what's crazy about it is I remember I have a wife. She's a scientist. Her name is Linda. I remember we had kids. I remember that our first child we had them. I think it was our son, and I think his name was Benny. And when we had him, it was in a cabin. And so we started with like literally tents and stuff, and we built cabins. We worked our way up. Eventually, we got plumbing, and it was like every time they came back, because they'd bring me back after I served my 20 years or whatever it was, 60 years maybe, I don't remember, but they'd bring me back after that, right? And when I come back, every time it'd be like 100 years in the future. And there was a team of the group that operated like outside of time that I'd be like, all right, we're gonna plant you, boop, and then they'd come back, and for them it'd be like instant. But we were there fucking a whole lifetime, right? And that was the group orchestrating the whole thing, and they made it so that through history we had control of their government the whole time and I think that's going on Earth, frankly. When I saw it played out in front of me on that other planet, I'm not saying that it's humans doing it here. It might be Draco doing it or whatever, but dude, it's totally playing out here. Like, that there's some sort of group that's messing with us from outside of time, making sure that we get edged along to where we need to be for the, you know what I mean?
I know that here the Shahami are doing it. That's the group that Marduk and Thoth came from.
Yep.
The Guardians that I interact with in the court that's off, it's in a hyperspace bubble off Saturn. The court there refers to Earth as belonging to Marduk. So.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And I've got people telling me that the Marduk that I served under wasn't Marduk and stuff. And I was talking with that in the last interview. I'm sorry, I don't trust any of that anymore. I believe it was Marduk. There's a guy that people are doing.
I have no reason to doubt it.
There's a guy that people are doing spirit work with and stuff like that. That everybody fucking talks shaman type work. There's an individual that people are doing work with, and everybody talks great about him, and that's fine. And he does wonderful work for people. I don't trust what he's saying. He's the one who brought this whole Marduk isn't Marduk narrative forward. I've done work with him. He didn't do anything for me. I didn't feel a soul shard get integrated. I don't know what's going on with the guy. I don't trust him. So I'm not going to say that the Marduk that I served under isn't Marduk because some guy said it's not Marduk. Also, I know people that I trust, like Joseph Power, saying that they don't think it was Marduk either. He didn't have to serve in the time bubble in England. I did, okay? I served entire lifetimes under this guy. Not just one. It's plural, okay? I know it was Marduk. Like, people are saying it wasn't. I'll get back to you and correct myself. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong. But, dude, that was Marduk. It was freaking Marduk, dude. I know it. Especially because we talked about it, and we've talked about him privately, and it's the same guy. It's the same
Yeah.
freaking guy. I can tell by the way you talk
This-
about him.
He's sorry to be crude, but he's a bit of a dick.
He's an asshole. Okay, you want to know what this guy did to me?
On a good
You want to know what
day,
this guy
he's a
did to
dick.
me? At one point, this is an epitome of how much of a fucking asshole this guy is. I served underneath him. Okay, I'm avian family, right? We were on Earth, so he was making me serve in a human body. But this was during a time where there were aliens on Earth, so I didn't have to like serve in a human body. He just made me do it. And one day, and I was doing good and stuff. I was killing it on my missions and stuff, and I felt ballsy and I was just like, hey, you think maybe you could put me in an avian body? Like, I would feel way better if I was like in an avian body because it's my soul group. And he goes, oh, oh yeah, we could do that for you. Sure, right away. We're on it tomorrow. And you want to know what this fucker did to me? He put me in a parrot's body and kept me in a cage by his throne and laughed at me. And fucking made me do tricks for him and stuff like that for me to like and say certain things and do shit for him to feed me. And like I would get sent on missions and I'd have to see myself as a parrot next to his throne. Okay? Like, and I just had to deal with that, man. This guy, he owned my soul. I couldn't get away from him. But there were times, like I said, where when I was doing good and stuff like that, he'd actually be nice to me. I remember I had a room, you know. I remember to look like everything. He'd send gaggles of women. I mean, not just one woman to sleep with me, like a whole gaggle of them when he was in a good mood. Like I'm talking like 10. But when he was mad at me, he was fucking ruthless. And it didn't matter whether it was me that he was mad at either. If he was mad, he was ruthless. It didn't matter whether it was I that did it or not. And man, it's wild because like one of my friends that I grew up with, I went to Ohio, okay, and he's not public, but all these memories came flooding back, and I was just like, dude, I know you as Dante. You worked with me at this time level in England. You were a mercenary for Marduk. We both were, and we were talking about it, and he was explaining all these weird things that happened to him because like. We didn't talk in literally 11 years, this friend of mine. And I went to Ohio to visit him. Yeah. And he was telling me stuff like, yeah, man, one night I woke up and there's this guy in my room standing in the corner. And he's just like, we're so tired of protecting you. We're so tired of protecting you. And then I like felt like, I was like, wanted to ask him like, what? Like, but then I felt like tiredness come over me and I fell back asleep. And I was like, dude, you got a whole group protecting you probably, bro. Like, because there are groups trying to take you for programs. And so one of those groups is protecting you and trying to stop you from getting taken. He's like, damn, like it explained everything, you know what I mean? And like, what's even crazier.
I'm going to send you a PDF. And it's a book by A.R. Borden that's no longer in print. That's why I'm sending the PDF. And as you read it, you will see that he's describing the same asshole that you are. So those folks who think that that somehow Marduk's a nice guy, they're clueless.
Yeah, no, Yeah, but I found this to be interesting though to run into. This is just telling some of the story, I guess, like filling in some blanks here. I'm sorry if it's a little left field, but like when I visited that friend, it was really wild to hear all the stories, all the weird things that happened to him. Like, and he told me about because he works in like cutting down trees and like arbor type stuff and like logging kind of type stuff. And he told me about how one time like a log was coming at him and it could have killed him, and he used his psi abilities to push it away. And yeah, and I was explaining to him that we have psi abilities and stuff, but we have to unlock them. And he's like, then he told me about them. I'm like, yeah, they don't come out unless you're threatened. And he's like, dude, and I was explaining to him, and I was just like, I was blowing his mind. And then that night we were hanging out, and it was weird. Like it was in the middle of summer, and all the crickets got really, really loud, and all the cats on he lives in the middle of nowhere. His dog, they're all freaking out, and the dog is like looking out the door, coming back to us, and looking out the door, coming back to us, and I'm like, oh, dude, my sister's here. She sent like it all came like to me like, okay, so my sister, when I got kept in that cage next to Marduk, I was kept actually, and I think she got brought after me, but he found her, and her name's Arcturia. She's from the same species as me. She's lavender colored. She's out there right now in her bird body. Lucky bitch. And she, well, I'm sorry for that side note, but she was kept in that cage next to me. And what am I trying to say about Arcturia? Oh yeah, okay. So when like you can see that the whole top of the house is like covered in like something, like a cloud, and you can tell that there's something up there. And I'm like, I'm not going outside, dude. And I'm like, I'm gonna tell you right now, Paul. I accidentally said his name. Oh well, it's not his last name. There's a million of them in the world. But anyway, I was like, I'm telling you, if you go outside right now, okay, you're gonna go out there. You're gonna say maybe you saw something weird, and then you're going to come back inside. You're going to say nothing happened. But what's really going to happen is you're going to go outside. You're going to go on a spaceship. You're going to be gone for 20 plus years, maybe longer. And then you're going to get memory wiped, and the memory is going to be replaced. And he's like, well, my dog wants me to go outside. And like, I trust my dog more than anybody in the world. So I kind of want to see what this is about. Right? And I'm like, all right, man. And I could see this being in my mind, like, it was a white bird person, and it had black eyes, and it had some like black on the tips of its fingers and stuff. Like there were black patches some of the spots on its fur, but it was almost all white. And it was just like, I am an Arcturian, and I've been sent here by your sister. And I'm like, this bitch has a whole group of like race of people named after her. I'm like, who is my sister? And I was just like, you tell her, because this was telepathic. I'm like, you tell her if she wants me to come, she can come herself and get me, not send some stranger. I'm like, I'm not coming because I don't trust my sister. I don't remember who she is. The first time that I had a conversation with Arcturia, I was meditating, and I could sense that she was like looking at me. And I was like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you're going to notice I was here. I'm like, you didn't? So you just show up and I don't know you're here and you're cool with that? You just do that? She's like, you don't understand. I care about you. I'm like, and it was weird. And then she showed herself to me. She's like, I'm your sister. I'm Arcturia. And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, Arcturia. I'm like, that makes sense because I'm like, I'm Arkheim. Okay. So that's like a family thing. I'm like, so, yeah, I was told my name's like Arkheim Raz. Like, I'm still trying to figure out if that's my name. And she's like, they have you messed up that bad? That's your name, brother. That's your name. And I was just like, wow. I was like, okay. And I was like, well, where are you right now? And that's where she was like, and I could see that she was somewhere beautiful, like by some like, she's like, it was like, she was like at a castle or something. It was crazy. And she's like, I gotta go. And like dipped out. And because of that, I was like, I don't know if I trust my sister. Like, why is she in a castle? Why is she doing so good when I'm doing so bad here on Earth? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Something's off here, right? And yeah, and so my friend, like I said, I'm like, I don't want to go. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna check it out. He came back inside. And he was gone for like 25 minutes. Like, and I was like, so what happened, man? And he was like, oh, I didn't really notice anything. And I stood out there and I smoked a cigarette. And then this like green skull came out of the sky. And I was like, really crazy. I'm like, are you listening to yourself, bro? A green skull came out of the sky? I was like, that's a cover memory. What did I tell you was going to happen? You just say maybe you saw something weird. He's like, oh, sorry. Are you still there? On my phone. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
still
I accidentally there. He's just like, because I literally said that was like just before he left, like, you're gonna say something weird happened. It's not gonna make sense. It's gonna be a cover memory. But what really is going to happen is you got on a spaceship. And when I told him that, when he came back inside, he's like, oh. I'm like, go into your memory, man. Like, what actually happened? He's like, I saw a green skull in the sky, dude. And I don't know what to tell you. I can't remember anything else. And it's just like, dude, I know he went to her planet. And it's weird, I know too, because like the people talk about the Arcturians, not the same thing as whatever other group it is. They're different. Her name is Arcturia, and they're her servants. She genetically made them a group of people. Like, don't ask me to explain how I know this. I just know this from the interaction that I had with the being. Like, it came into me. You know what I mean? Like, he worked for her. She made him. Like, and there's a whole planet, or at least a spaceship, full of these beings that they just work for her, and she just made them to work for her. And that's why I'm like, I don't know if I trust my sister, because I think that's why I'm going through all this bad karma I'm going through right now, is the fact that we thought we could subjugate other people to just do what we want for us, and she seems to still be on that. And I feel bad because she's literally out there somewhere. She exists, and she is my sister, and here I am talking shit about her. That's probably not good. But I don't
get abducted tonight.
I think I probably am. I'm pretty much can guarantee that I'm probably going to get taken tonight. And that's not even a joke.
No, I wasn't kidding. Yeah. No, I found it when I talk about these guys that things happen.
So I feel bad. I feel bad though because I talked about Arcturia. Arcturia. I'm talking about her. But I felt bad that not getting on the ship because I got the memory back of being the parrot. You know what I mean? With Marduk, and like we were there for each other, and we do love each other a lot. You know, and I always will love her, even if she is maybe evil. I don't know if she is or not. Maybe that's a
Doing
strong
stuff
word.
she shouldn't be.
Even if she's, yeah, exactly. Maybe she's not perfect, right? Maybe evil's a strong word. But I remember that we were there for each other, and she is my sister. And if I am able to get out of this and realize, like, wait a minute, you can't just make beings to just do stuff for you. Beings are supposed to do stuff for themselves and exist for themselves. Like, that's laziness. That's laziness. Like,
Yes.
once I realized that, but then again, I'm stuck in a human body. Put me on a spaceship in an avian body again that can where I can walk through walls and make people do stuff with my mind. Maybe I'd flip the script again, because when you have that power, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. The power that I did have before I became a human, I remember it. It was insane.
The power wants to be used.
Yeah, and like I said, I remember.
I had to, since my abilities were reactivated when I got the memories, I've had to work at controlling what I do. Because
Your abilities.
I have an ethical compass, and out there I didn't. But the abilities want to be used, and I have to make sure that if I use them, they're being used for good and not harm. But anytime you do anything, there are folks harmed by it. So.
Yeah, I feel like this has been a very all over the place interview. I'm sorry if it hasn't been concise. Okay. I'm doing my best here, but sometimes those are good. Sometimes I know from listening to you, sometimes those are the best ones. What?
I think that the ones where we cover a lot of territory are good for the folks that are out there that are wondering where they fit into it. It's not a neat, clean, everything is explainable situation. We have messy memories. We have things we can't explain. We have ETs, we have interdimensionals, we have things that happen on other reality planes, and when we start talking about it, I'm suddenly slapped up with all these people's religions. And I
Well,
really
they're
don't.
tied into this, but they kind of missed the mark on a lot of things. You know.
And it's frustrating for me to be talking about something that I see so clearly as 3D real, and suddenly have somebody slap me up the side of the head with some holy book from thousands of years ago that I really see as irrelevant to what I'm talking about. And it's very, very, very frustrating as a general rule. Like you were talking about, that they talk about in the Vedas, people going into space, and then they want to say, well, we're flat Earth and there's a dome and you can't get out. Well, if the dome is here now, the dome is here then. And I have a simple explanation. I didn't go to Mars on a rocket. I went to Mars through a jump gate. So it bypassed the dome.
Yeah. I am still trying to remember how I got to Mars. I don't remember. I think that I was taken on the shuttle from Mars to the moon, and you might have been the one piloting it, for all I know.
I do have an alter that's in a cyborg body. That's
No,
all she does
I
is
know that. That's why I brought it up. Not
shuttle
because of my own memories, to be honest and clear. I don't remember that, but I do remember that I have. This is the sense. I'm pretty sure that, okay, I had an alter that served on the moon and was a psychic and did intel for the military. And it's kind of like how Tony Rodriguez talks about it. When you go through puberty, when you're used for that, you kind of don't become useful anymore. And
Yeah.
I think that's when they sent me to Mars. But I also have an alter named Harry on the moon, and his job is just taking souls out of kids and putting them into their clone bodies that they're going to be housed in. And that's his job. Al Bielek was the one who did that at Montauk, I'm pretty sure. That was the thing. It's like Preston Nichols talks about the process of putting your brain into a computer, and then it comes out. There was an adept present. There was a human organic component to all that process. And I'm the person, I'm one of the people doing it on the moon. I send kids off to be slaves. Fucking
Well,
awesome job, right?
I have 2,200 alters approximately, and I only have memories from 32 of them. So I have no idea what else I'm being used for.
Yeah, the memory that the Harry, my alter that is on the moon that's doing that, I got him his. I don't know who he is, not because I got memories back, because he telepathically linked to me and tried to peer into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did that, I was able to peer into his mind, and I saw who he was and what he was doing. And yeah, he's very sheepish. Like, that was the thing that I could. That's why I was able to sense him in my mind. Is because his personality was so different than mine. He thought he could get away with it, and he would have been able to get away with it. But his personality was so different than mine that I could feel his personality inside my mind. He's afraid. Every time he does something wrong, he gets tortured for it. You know, he does not know what confidence. That guy does not know what confidence is. He's never experienced it before. So when I felt that inside my mind, it was a very foreign sensation, and I could recognize that he was there, and I was able to see who he was. And he cut off the connection very quick, but I was able to get a lot in that tiny little moment.
Yeah, I've found myself piggybacking alters, and the first time
I just realized that I might fucking get that guy tortured. Shit. Like, literally, that's what people don't realize. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like, when we talk in interviews, it has repercussions, okay? If there's somebody that's watching this, that's in the programs, that hears this and knows about Harry, he's going to get fucking tortured now. because he did
Yeah.
that. He's not supposed to do that. He was not supposed to do what he did there. And here I am publicly talking about it like an idiot because people want to sit and eat popcorn and fucking look at it like it's a hypothetical situation and be voyeurists about it. I don't know, man. Sorry. It's just like sometimes I wonder why I'm even talking about this stuff, especially with the pushback that we're getting right now.
Well, I'm talking about it for all those people out there who are having memories and they think they're alone and they're thinking about killing themselves because they think they're crazy. Those are the people I'm talking to.
Yeah, I was there. You know, and I found Tony Rodriguez before I found you. And for me, it was like I had to sit on that information for a long time.
Yeah,
Tony's information.
I can see that.
And I could just see because before that it was what's his name? Corey Good, and I could tell that was not genuine, and it made me not look at it for a long time. And then when I found Tony, I was like, man, this guy is telling the truth and the details. And then the fact that some of the things he said seemed so familiar, that was really weird. And I had to sit on it for a long time. And I don't know if I'm a broken record here, but because I might have said this when I first came out on your show, but basically I went to my mom and was like telling her about these weird memories that I'm having and how I think that my alien abduction freak out that I've had my whole life, because she's known that I've thought I've been taken since I was a kid, right? So I think it has something to do with the military. Like, it's real, first of all, and I think it has something to do with the military. And she just told me she thought it explained a lot, and it made sense, actually, and that I should look into it, which I kind of wanted her to tell me, like, dude, you're crazy, you know, go to a doctor, you know, but, like, and...
Doctors just medicate you. I had a doctor for 25, ended up being 27 years, and his solution to everything was to put you on Prozac.
Well, a lot of times that's the solution, but really what I was saying is I wanted there to be a simpler explanation. I didn't want it to be that I was kidnapped and I was brought into space, but the bottom line is I know I was. I know I was. Like,
Yeah.
I have the memories of military people teaching me how to use psychokinetic abilities. It wasn't in a virtual reality. It was in the here and now. Like, and their faces are blurred out. Why? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like that bothers me. And then you get sent the photos. You know, Joseph Powell, he knows who all these guys are, and it's like I can't even say which guy it was because they blurred out the face, right? And I'm pretty sure I know now who it is.
That's where I am, is the faces are blurred out. I don't know who they are.
Well, when I first talked to Joseph, I'm talking the first time ever talked to him, or actually the second time, excuse me. He did some energy work on me. And after he did that, the memories that I got back didn't have blurred faces and stuff anymore.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think that was his intention either. He was trying to do something else, but like, I am pretty much 100% positive that they did the reverse ritual of that sense. They, you know, whatever programming, whatever energy he undid, it's up again. Because like when I get memories back now, I don't always see the faces. And just in general, it's been tricky getting memories back. But it's weird because, like, man, I'm bringing her up again. I'll listen to Miesha in interviews. She'll be like, yeah, I don't remember that much. And then she'll go on and on. I feel like I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, I don't remember that much. But then when you actually look at it, it's like, it's actually a lot. But what people need to understand is we say that because, dude, it's a whole entire lifetime. Like, when you look at it that way, I don't remember very much at all. Like, I really don't. Like,
yeah.
So it's
I get it. My first altar was on a 55 and back. And once I got off Mars, I was plugged into the ship's computer, and the ship's computer kept my memory. I don't remember much from that time at all. I just remember being on a ship and being in a confined area because I was a security risk. And because if you're connected to the ship's computer, someone can come in telepathically, make that connection and access the ship's computer. You know, so it was, I had my stateroom. I could go to the officer's mess. I could go to the bridge. I could go to navigation, and I could go to the hallways in between them. That was it. That was my life for 25 years. So
I've had service where I just was lying on a table. Like I talked about on the moon. That was at least 8 to 12 years of just being on a table, being fed intravenously, drugs and whatever food and water I need. And that was my service, you know? And a lot of the times in these programs, your service is just, it's like being in prison or something. Like you were a prisoner to that ship.
I was a prisoner in that ship, yes. And I was told I was sent there because I had gotten in trouble on Mars. So, yes, I was a prisoner on the ship. And almost every ship I've been on, I've been a prisoner. Because as a navigator, I had direct input into the ship's computer.
Yeah.
So the me here and now, I understand that's a security issue, but at the same time, emotionally, I keep feeling it as I was a prisoner. People think that I think I'm so important because I was running the navigation, but it wasn't. I was an extension of the ship's computer. I was just a peripheral. And it's not, you know, it's not like I had command functions or anything. I was just the interface that allowed organics and inorganics to stay separate during the process of hyperspace. So, I mean, it sounds like, oh yeah, you were the navigator, you were real important. No, I wasn't. I just kept people
None of
from
us
being
were
on the wall.
important.
It's
No.
necessary, but so is the guy that mops the floors.
Yeah. I would say in all of my experiences in military abduction programs, the best outcome that we ever had, well, whether people want to believe what happened or not, I don't really care, was post-junior Montauk. Post-junior Project Phoenix. It wasn't Project Phoenix anymore. It was I would say it's Project Phoenix 3 at that point, because we were at Project Phoenix 2, and when Junior came along, everything changed, and so it wasn't the same thing anymore. And Jimmy became commander of Montauk, and that was the only time ever in any of the situations that I was out there where we gained power and actually tried to change things and make them better. But I don't think that lasted very long. In fact, we haven't been able to delve into what happens after a certain point, but we got kicked out of Montauk. Dracos took over. There are Draco mercenaries that took over Montauk, like the actual Montauk. We had to move. Well, there's all this different stuff that happened. But that was the only time ever that I can recall where my captors fucked up bad enough that we actually were able to get some sort of semblance of freedom and start actually fighting back. But I think Joseph would be able to.
I've never been in a situation where we were able to fight back. Now, there's someone who is not public who has recently started getting a lot of memory. And, okay, she has said some things about me that I have absolutely no memory of. And one of them was that I was at the Montauk 2.0 and 3.0 with you guys. Do you have memories of me there?
I don't
Okay.
remember that. But what I can tell you is you need to send me some pictures of you when you're younger, first of all, because I when I think of Penny Bradley, I think of you with the way you look now, and that's not how you would look.
Okay.
And second of all, I believe, and you should ask Joseph about it,
Okay.
because I think, don't quote me on it, but I think he might have brought something up about that.
Okay.
It would make sense. And something tells me.
Since I have no memories of it, but I basically went through and picked out who was real based on I put together a Montauk roundtable based on my own feelings of who was real, and Doris verified all of you. So, how would I know?
If you were there, you were definitely probably in an administrative capacity. It's of some sort, I would think. Like I would imagine that when we were children, you would have been an adult still. But I don't know. I don't see, like, I'm not going to go into memories that I don't have. What I can tell you is this: I can tell you that it feels accurate, and I can say that it's something we should look into. But my memories of Montauk are really limited. It's all the really emotional stuff. The really bad gang rapes that happened, the really bad gang rapes that they made me do, the really bad torture and killing that they made me do and did to me, and it's all emotional stuff. Those are the things that I remember the most.
My memories from Montauk are all from 61, 62, when I was about 6 years old. So, I don't.
Have I gotten into the memories of going back into time and telling people that they had to come back to Montauk yet on your show?
No, we can do that next time, because we talked about that this would be about an hour and a half, and it's approaching 1 a.m. where you are.
Okay. I'm surprised that I still haven't talked about that publicly, because it's pretty crazy.
Okay, so we can do that next time, and I would be most honored to have you back. And
Well, yeah, there's a lot to talk about there.
so, thank you for coming, and thank you, audience, for listening.